Hello, my name is Justin Jarrett. This is Infiltration for Ways of Water, Riverbeds to Rooftops. It's an attempt for a visual anatomy, fractal-derived filtration systems. So I'll start with looking at filtration in general and the inspiration for the project, then on to some fractal explorations, site and context, site selection, and finally the beginnings of design iterations for filtration modules and cistern precedents. This is the Floridian Aquifer. It's kind of a natural filtration machine. It's complex layered system composed of various subsoils, aggregates, and limestone formations. So from a fine silt aggregate and kind of beach sand surface down into these more porous, thicker type aggregates at the base. Precipitation filters naturally down through this entire system and is filtered naturally and then is released into estuaries and creates various ecosystems around the coastline. So taking from that kind of gravity-induced filtration, the inspiration is kind of following that system in general. This is a piece of artwork I just wanted to share. It's watercolor and kind of starts to lend to some of the explorations with ink and the cohesive properties of water that I get to later in my research. So to begin with fractal explorations, these are just the different mappings that we use in the Grasshopper script to derive these forms. These initial ones are playing with just form, density, and light and shadow. They start to kind of create these more dense moments as they move around and create these almost cavern-like spaces between. This is a different iteration with more of a scalloped shape. And this is the same iteration. However, it starts to kind of create almost like a earthen kind of slate ground condition that sweeps, that started to kind of motivate some later iterations. So then I thought to try to bring in some color and use a process that would derive formal movements pulling from pixel information from a piece of artwork. This is a piece of mine, and also just still keeping in mind that it's eventually related to water, so the form is trying to cater to that flow of water in directionality and cohesive properties of it. And this view showing the beginnings of some transparencies. Now using an image of a river, satellite imagery. This is pixel sampling to create more of a scaffolding for the fractal module. This one also being a bit more spatial as opposed to just a flat object. So it starts to envelop space a bit more and become a bit more dynamic. And on this side, almost becoming a like a facade treatment or some kind of striation. And at this angle, just showing this almost vortex condition. So then to introduce water and reflectivity, I started rendering these transparent materials into the iterations and trying to create these illusions of refraction, distortion, and how these surfaces start to just mimic what's going on below. And then in moments, they're almost being pulled up and warped and contorted in strange ways. And still very interested here in the way that light is operating through all of this. In this iteration, introducing more stereotomic elements that are trying to identify some sense of scale and spatial quality. This was directly against a reflective surface, like a chrome surface, so everything on the left is just simply a kind of blurred, granulated reflection, dulling the light and kind of creating this contrast. And so then on to adding some more architectural implications, this being a Gothic arch that I've modeled, and it's almost creating like a feeling of a cistern with these late textures in the bottom, and then the fractals along the top potentially being this tertiary layer of filtration with this glowing void in between. And this got us thinking about the cisterns in Turkey. And with that connected, then going directly into some water tests. So 3D printing a section of that model and using ink and water to make some tests about how it would travel through the more porous aggregate to on the top, and through cohesion just adhere to the face of the model and work its way down into this kind of reflective pool. So on to site selection. I chose the USPS building that's on 3rd Avenue in Manhattan, following the Devores Mills stream. This shows it originating from the north, coming down Central Park, and then follows along and goes right through this kind of arcade that exists in this building. The idea is that we could use the high volume and surface area to aid in water catchment, providing filtration opportunities. The lower roof being, there's already a small garden on the southwest corner, but there's a lot of opportunity there for extended gardens and filtration opportunities down the facade of the lower portion of the building, and then finally into the cisterns and collection points, and then a potential for the stream daylighting. So these are portions of the fractal model. These are diagrams showing the porosity and kind of multifaceted directionality that exists within it. The diagram all the way to the right is showing just that in almost an exploded and spatial way. The piece in the middle almost being this is a 3D printed model, a rendering of it, but showing potentially that within those spaces or crevices, there could be a type of aquaculture biofilter or opportunity for plant growth. All of those things being something that could naturally filter water or create smaller ecosystems or anything natural within the gardens. And here's a view of the front of the building, and then below ground, kind of hinting at this cistern kind of condition that we created in the renderings. And then just implying that it would extend up the face of the building and potentially provide space for the scaffolding of those natural systems that we just spoke about. These are the cisterns in Turkey as a bit of a precedence. So next steps, trying to integrate those ideas of refraction, reflection, and light catchment and bring that light down into the cistern and potentially be changing the materiality of the existing building in a way that would channel the light and translate it and absorb color information and bring it down into those cisterns and kind of play with that transparency of materials and potentially open the facade of the building up. Thank you.